Okay, so I realize now I'm at the end of recording that I didn't actually do an introduction to this. So we are going to talk about the Adam Binder series by David R. Slayton. These books are urban fantasy. They follow a queer character, and they are fantastic. I love these books. I definitely suggest them, and we'll talk about why. Particularly, we're going to talk about queer trauma and healing from queer trauma. These are all things that I'll be like, oh yeah, I should have mentioned that earlier through the podcast, and I just wanted to get that out front now. These are fantastic urban fantasy books following a queer person and his navigating his relationship with his family through magic and queerness. It is just, oh my god, there's so much to it. These are great books. I 100% suggest them. I'll get to a summary of the first one really fast here. So yeah, please enjoy. Hello there, this is my podcast, and we're going to talk about books. Today we're going to be discussing the Adam Binder series. Currently it has 3 books. It will have more, but it's going to be talked about kind of like a trilogy, because these first 3 books do have an overarching plot, and they fit nicely together, and I feel like some of the problems of trilogies are present in this book. It's my one complaint about it, the second book. So first, there's White Trash Warlock, Trailer Park Trickster, and Deadbeat Druid. Those are the books that we currently have now, and there is a spin-off book called, oh god, what is it called? Rogue Community College. So I picked up this book first and foremost just because of the name. White Trash Warlock is a fantastic name. I fucking love it. And the cover of the book, if I remember correctly, let's go look at a picture of it now, is, yeah, it looks like the what's it called? The tarot card, the Tower. It's not exactly the same, but it looks inspired by it, and the tarot is very important for this series. So I picked up the book just because I love the title and I love the cover. It was great. And then I started reading it and I realized it was queer and just a fantastic story. So I mentioned that it kind of is a trilogy. The first 3 books fit really well together. And the problem that I have with this series so far is the second book does what a lot of trilogies do, in my opinion, in that the first book is a complete story in and of itself. The third book has the first book and the third book have satisfying endings. The second book does not have a satisfying ending to me. I believe that all books in a series should have a satisfying ending. Now, there are things that should carry over, especially in a trilogy, right? So we should get an overarching story for the 3 books, but the second book should have its own final ending. Like this one kind of does, but to me it feels more like a setup for the third book. And this is not just a problem that I have with this series. So many trilogies are like this, and I hate it so much. It's just a me thing, I think. I don't think a lot of people, other people care, because I don't hear a lot of people complaining about it. But often, when there's 3 things in a series, the first one is its own completed story that, it does continue, but there's an ending. It feels satisfying. And then the second one just feels like a setup to me, and I don't know why that is, and it bothers the hell out of me. The second book was enjoyable, but it didn't have a satisfying ending of its own, and I feel like it should. Anyways, now that rant's out of the way, that's literally the one complaint I have about this series. Let's do a quick summary of the first book. So it starts with Adam Binder, and he's hunting down magical items that sort of feel similar to his own magic, and so he's wondering if it's his estranged father, who has become a warlock. A warlock in these series means that you are hurting other magical creatures in order to have more powerful magic, essentially. And so he's maiming or killing magical creatures and turning them into magical artifacts. And Adam is hunting these things down, hoping to find his father, because the magic it feels so familiar. So what happens is he hunts these things down and then he destroys them. And he's a good guy. He could use these magical items, but he knows how they were created, and the way they were created was terrible, so he's destroying them. Eventually, he runs across a cop named Vic. Vic gets into some trouble. There's some bad shit happening, and he accidentally connects them magically. And then Vic is the romantic lead. Is that the right word, romantic lead? Anyways, they're into each other. Adam has to struggle with, is it because of the magical connection that I actually put between us? Or do we actually feel these things? Adam has some trust issues, as you will see throughout the series. Some elves get involved, including his ex. There's a bunch of difficult relationships, not only with this ex, but also with his family. His relationship with his family is very strained, which is a key part of what we're going to discuss in this book review. And he has to question the decisions that he has to make. He has to make some really tough decisions. For example, is it okay to kill things that are trying to kill him, end the world maybe, threaten people he loves? Is it okay for him to kill these things? He has to decide whether it is or not and make that really tough decision. And he's too much of a good guy. He doesn't want to kill anything. And he ends up having to make a sacrifice that literally no one else in the world would make. And it shocks everyone in the magical world because no one has ever done this before, basically. It's unheard of. It's crazy, and it really contrasts him with the main antagonist, the person creating magical items that he believes might be his father. I try to keep spoilers out of that. From here on out, I can't promise that there aren't going to be any spoilers, but I am going to do my best to not talk about the actual plotline too much. Like, I'm going to discuss things that happen, obviously, but we're going to try to keep it as spoil minimum as possible. So as I said, he's trying to hunt down this warlock who has similar magic to him, and he believes is his father. And throughout the series, he does encounter this warlock. He finds out the warlock's history and how this warlock relates to his family. Is it his father? Maybe, maybe not. We're not going to discuss that because I don't think it's really important for what I want to discuss. He meets Death. He goes on quests for Death that she basically forces on him. He has no choice. He basically has to do it because he's such a good guy, and the people involved need to be saved, and the world needs to be saved. And, he finds out where his boundaries are. He questions right and wrong and his own morals, and he builds up new walls. He breaks some walls down. He just figures out where his boundaries and what he's willing to do and what he's not willing to do throughout the series. If you told me that this book was a memoir or an autobiography, I might believe you. The characters in it feel so real. I've mentioned multiple times how good of a person Adam is now, and he still feels like a real person. It doesn't feel like the author, David R. Slayton, I should have mentioned that earlier, is trying to really make Adam like this perfect guy, because he's not. He has a lot of issues. He has a lot of problems, and his goodness, he's just too goddamn, just kill things, Adam, just kill things. Sometimes it would be so much easier if he would just kill his enemy, but he doesn't want to. He's a good guy, and it causes so many fucking problems for them. It doesn't come across as he's trying to make a perfect character. Everyone in this series feels real. Everything in this series, all the relations to different people and stuff, feels real. They feel like real characters. The relationships don't feel like fake at all. The decisions that people make, the way people act towards each other, the difficulty that their relationships have. For example, his mother is very religious, and he's a magical queer person, and that is difficult for her as a Christian. And all of these relationships, the strains, the struggles, all of it feels real. It's so good. He's so good at writing these characters. I actually want to talk about some of this character growth. Adams and Vic's particularly is really well done. It's really interesting to me, particularly the way that they influence each other and they push each other's boundaries and help each other grow, because they're both very different people, but when it comes down to it, they're both really good guys. But they see the world in different ways. Vic's upbringing and Adam's upbringing were very different. Vic basically has a loving family. It seems perfect. And Adam's family is very troubled, particularly because he was an out queer person, an out queer magical person, and his family, it did not work with his family, and it caused a lot of problems. Vic, on the other hand, discovers he's queer, bisexual in this book because of Adam. But, when he tells his family, they just accept it. He just brings Adam home. Well, Adam shows up. They're fine with it as soon as they meet Adam. It's great. They seem so nice. And so, their upbringing is different. The way that they see the world because of their upbringings is different. And they really teach each other and help each other grow. It's really fun seeing them grow. Particularly, I think it's fun. I say particularly a lot, I think, in those sorts of words. Anyways, Vic has black and white thinking that is really frustrating. He thinks that, he's a cop, right? And he's a huge Star Wars fan, which I think is perfect. I believe I've talked to the author. I've talked to David R. Slayton a few times on Instagram. I'm probably super annoying. Sorry, you're just fun to talk to. I think it's great that he's a Star Wars fan. I think this was done on purpose. We've talked about this because, there's a cult in Star Wars that go around the universe stealing young children from their families, attempting to squash out all of their emotions and all of their ties to humanity, and train them to be magical super soldiers who have very black and white thinking. The Jedi are the bad guy, you guys. They're bad. Maybe they're not as bad as the Sith, but they're still bad. Anyway, so the fact that Vic has this very black and white thinking and that he's a Star Wars fan, I'm pretty sure that David R. Slayton said that was on purpose. And I love it. It's so funny to me. But like I said, Vic's black and white thinking versus the difficulties that Adam has faced growing up. He does not see things so black and white. Sometimes. He's pretty black and white about not wanting to kill things. But generally speaking, he sees the ability to bend things and shades of gray and having to do difficult things to survive. He understands that better, and they really help each other grow. Their different upbringings, their different struggles, their different worldviews, and they change each other because of this. I've mentioned Adam's relationship with his family. It is very strained at the beginning, and you have to ask yourself, his family is Christian. His mother particularly is very Christian. Was it because he was gay? Was it because he was magical? Well, fun fact, they are the same thing in this series. At least that's the argument I'm going to be making over the next however many minutes. So his family over the story does begin to accept him, even if it's not perfect. They are not perfect people. No one is a perfect person in this series. They find ways to love him that fit their worldview better. His mom's religion, for example, gets in the way of him being magical. And is it homophobia? It's difficult. She loves him, but she struggles with her religion because of the magic, because of the queer thing. However, I can only remember one instance of outright homophobia in the series. There might be more, but I can only remember one. In Tillamay, his mother just smacks the shit out of the woman that's going to call her son a faggot. It's great. And so obviously she struggles with her son being gay, but she's not going to take that shit. And maybe she would have in the beginning. I don't think so. Even if she's, again, has done some questionable things towards her son in the past, she loves him. She wants to do the best. She's just misguided about it. The magical thing and the queerness thing are very interconnected, so I'm going to explain that now. Many of the magical named characters are queer in some way. Now, not all of them, because there are a lot of magical characters in this book, and a lot of them are named. Maybe they are queer, it's just not outright said, but there are a lot of magical characters. There's a huge overlap of magic and queerness in this series. And not just gay. There's bisexuals, gays, people on the ace arrow spectrum. There's a lot of stuff. Again, most of the magical people are queer. Adam, when he was a teen, he was a troubled teen. He had difficulties with a lot of stuff because he had magic. He didn't know how to control it. His family was trying to deny magic. I'm sure that they knew it was true because later in the series we find out that both his brother and his mother have potential magical powers. It's not completely clear for his mother, but it's hinted that she might be magical. Again, I've read these books 3 times. Maybe she really did. Maybe it's outright stated. Maybe it's stated she doesn't. But there are times when we're at least questioning. It could have been Adam's and his brother's ability affecting her, but I'm pretty sure she has some as well. They're denying it. They want no part of this magic, his mother and his brother. And so he ends up being sent to a place called Liberty House because he's a troubled teen. He's, having difficulties, particularly because of his magic is making him very sensitive to things. And they're like, oh, you're crazy. We'll send you to this, live-in mental hospital school place thing. It's not a great place. And this is very, very heavily coded as a pray the gay away camp sort of situation for me. And so let's talk about why. The rift it causes between him and his brother and his mother is huge. Him being sent here, this place is very abusive to him. And while from their outlook, it's not trying to make him straight, and it's not necessarily trying to get rid of his magic. They don't believe in it, or at least they're telling themselves they don't believe in magic. But he is troubled. They think he's kind of crazy. And so they send him there to heal that. So some people think that queerness is a mental illness, right? So there we go. There's some parallel. They don't believe in the magical things that he's dealing with. He's just crazy, right? The only thing that saves him is his ex-boyfriend who comes and trains him how to use his magic and allows him to kind of escape, what is it called? When you your spirit leaves your body sort of thing. Astral projecting, that sort of thing. He is taught how to do that from his elf ex-boyfriend. And of course he obviously learns how to be gay too. They're boyfriends. They do all the romantic-y boyfriend stuff that teenagers want to do. The only escape from this place is for him to really accept his queerness and his magicalness. He learns how to do that with the help of somebody who is very entrenched in magic and his queerness. Maybe his queerness less so, but it's the part of him. He's accepted it. He's part of the magical community, and he sort of takes Adam under his wing, teaches him how to do all that stuff, and it's the only reason he survives this. And then once Adam is 18, he leaves and he gets out, and his relationship with his family is very difficult after this. And when you look at it, it's very similar to how I've seen people I knew personally in real life who were sent to pray the gay away camps, as well as seeing interviews and stuff on the internet. It's very similar, the way that they argue, the way that Adam feels about his family. It's a pray the gay away camp. I have not talked to the author about this, but I would bet money that he did this on purpose, because it's very clear, it's very obvious, and it parallels it so perfectly. The way that they fight, the resentment that he feels towards his family, and the rift that it causes. He felt pushed away because of something that he can't change about himself. He was born with his magical powers. He was born with it and he can't change it. and he was sent to a place to change it by his family. It's super obvious to me. I don't want to focus too much on this, even though I just talked about it for a bunch of minutes, because that's not what the story is really about. The story is about the recovery from this trauma. And so we talk about this trauma, obviously. We can't ignore it. This is something that we as queer people go through. And with a queer character, it's very likely that he's going to have this. So we do get to see two experiences of queer people, two main experiences. We see Adam, who was sent to a Pray the Gay Away camp, essentially, and we see Vic, who's immediately accepted by his family. And so I think seeing both is very good. I think it's very important that both, it's like the two extremes. There's a bunch of different things in the middle that can happen as well, but seeing the two extremes, I think, was really important for this story, because we don't want to just say that every queer person's life is hard, because it's not true. A lot of us do go through something like that, but not everyone. And so I think it's important that we have both, but I do think it's really important that we talk about some of the trauma that we see. However, I feel like a lot of, and this is true for other minorities as well, right? Like, people get tired of seeing their trauma on film and in print. It's exhausting. It's important to talk about these things, but overall, we don't want to dwell on it. We want to see something happy for ourselves every now and then. And I think it's important to talk about, and that's why I really love this series, because it's not about the trauma. It's about the recovery from the trauma. And so while we do learn about Adam's trauma, we're not living in that time period. We're not seeing him get traumatized. We're seeing him recover from it. We're seeing him healing from it. He gets to talk to his family about the things that he experienced, and they grow to accept him over the series. Like I said, later in the second or third book, I forget, I think it's the second book, his mom slaps the shit out of someone for being homophobic to him. She eventually accepts Vic. Well, she accepts him pretty fast. Vic's a great guy. She starts to be more accepting in the third book, she starts to accept not only the gay thing, but the magic thing. Like, it's everything is accepted, because again, it's what is the word? A metaphor? She starts to accept all of it. She's not happy with it. She's still that Christian woman who doesn't want to be involved in this magic, but she knows that she has to be if she wants her son in her life, and she loves her son. She is a person who makes mistakes. She tries to do the best, but I mean, it was hard for her to balance her religious views with what her son is in her eyes, and how her son is against her religion. And his brother was an asshole. His brother is, the one that sent him there. And like, the way that he recovers with his family, like, they don't, what do I want to say? We acknowledge that his family did bad things to him, and we acknowledge that they're not perfect people, but we also get to acknowledge that they were doing what they thought was best for him. Now, they were wrong. To be fair, Liberty House was literally masked in magic from them, so they couldn't see what it really was. Like, it was run down and terrible. But they saw, like, a nice building that looked like it could help him. Like, they literally did not see what it was. And I think that this is a metaphor for religious people, for example, feeling like if you're going to go to hell if you are gay and you sin, right? And so they think that literally the best thing for you would be to convert and become straight, and you have to believe in God or you're going to go to hell. Like, they're misguided, they're wrong, but they truly believe this. And so his family did what they truly thought was best for him. They thought he was crazy. They thought he was having trouble. Again, in the book, it's not necessarily that he's gay. The focus is on him being crazy or magical. The gay thing is very, infrequently brought up. It is, and it is a part of the storyline towards the end, particularly gay people being targeted because they can't have kids, even though we can. It is a thing, but the focus is mostly on the magic. And so while it's gay, though. It's gay. It's all about being gay. And so we learned that they thought they were doing the best, but they obviously weren't. And we get to acknowledge that people can hurt us when they want to do the best. And then they have to acknowledge that they hurt us while thinking they were doing the best for us. And then they have to grow from that. They have to see what they did, and they have to fix it. And they do that. And the book isn't saying that everyone that hurts us, everyone that causes us trauma is redeemable. But some people are. Some people just made a mistake. And did it fuck us up? Yeah. But we can heal those. We can rebuild those bridges, right? Like, they're not burnt to the ground. And I think that getting to see this healing from this trauma, from being sent to this sort of camp, this school, whatever, it's really important that we get this healing. And the focus is on the healing. And that is what I love the most about this series. It's a fun urban fantasy. It's got magic and adventure and a little bit of romance. It's got everything you want. It's so good. But the fact that we get to see healing from trauma instead of just the trauma or ignoring the trauma, it's really nice. It's a really nice change. And the characters are believable. The reasoning is believable, and the way that they come to terms with things slowly over time is believable. And that's what I really want to applaud. I love this series. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I have been told that there are going to be, I don't know if it's officially announced, there are going to be more books in the series. I don't want to say any more than that because I don't know what has been officially talked about, but there are going to be more books. At least he's writing more. It's great. I cannot wait. As soon as I get to Germany, because I'm moving abroad. I currently live in Japan. I'm moving to Germany. As soon as I get to Germany, I'm going to be buying these books. I love these books. These books are great. Like I said, I've read them 3 times now. I've read his other books as well. He's so good. I definitely suggest these books. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. And I am gonna go. So yeah, see you later. I should get some sort of actual sign off. Bye.